I'm about to tell you why you should not build a tech startup. And I mean it. This is not reverse psychology. This is not some motivational speech where I say it's hard, but you can do it at the end. This is me genuinely telling you, if any of what I'm about to say sounds awful to you, then do not do this. Go do something else. There are easier ways to make money. But if what I'm about to describe sounds hard and also kind of exciting and it makes you want to have the challenge, then maybe you should do this. But I want you to do it with your eyes open. Today, we're talking about why most people should not become tech founders. So let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to the Tech for Non-Techies podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Matveeva. If you're a non-technical founder building a tech product or adding AI to your business, you're in the right place. Each week, you'll get practical strategies, step-by-step playbooks, and real-world case studies to help you launch and scale a tech business without learning to code. And this is not another startup show full of jargon, venture capital theater, or tech bro bravado. Here, we focus on building useful products that make money without hype and without code. I've written for the Harvard Business Review and lectured at Oxford, London Business School, and Chicago Booth, so you are in safe hands. I've also helped hundreds of founders go from concept to scalable product. And now it's your turn. So let's dive in.
Hello, smart people. How are you today? I'm recording this for you in January, when there's still this new year, new you enthusiasm, and people are still at the gym. And lots of people want to start a new venture this year or change their careers. And this is a great thing because this is how we evolve and grow and have more interesting lives. But if one of the things that you're considering is launching a tech venture, then I want you to have your eyes open. I want you to know the trade-offs and then decide whether this is something you genuinely want to do. Tech entrepreneurship is really fashionable right now, and I think this is why some people get seduced into doing it, then actually start the work, then realize how hard it is and the challenges, and then quit. And I would rather that you knew the costs up front, so then you could make an informed decision. So here are 4 reasons for why you should absolutely not try to build a tech startup. First reason not to do this is that it's really, really hard. And I don't mean it's like, oh, it's challenging but rewarding, kind of like a good gym class. I mean that you will have to do things that you've never done before all the time, constantly, and with no instruction manual. And even if you join a program like Tech for Non-Technical Founders, yes, we help you, but we can't solve all of your problems. We can't give you a manual for every single thing. And also, you will face a lot of rejection. Investors will say no. Customers will say your product is confusing. Developers will tell you that your idea is impossible or that it takes ages and lots of money to build. Your friends will ask you if you're going to get a real job, or definitely your mom will. And also, you'll make mistakes in public. Your first version will be embarrassing. It might not work. It might crash. Your test version might crash when you're on a stage presenting it to investors. You'll send emails with typos to really important people. You'll pitch to the wrong investors. You'll be laughed out of the room, and you'll definitely hire some wrong people, and then you'll have to fire them, which always feels awful. And you will always be worried about running out of money. Even when things are going well, there's this constant background hum of, okay, well, this is good, but what about the next time? We can make payroll this month, but what about next month? Or what if this customer cancels? You know, you get this contract and you're like, this is great, but now we're really dependent on them. Or what if the funding falls through? And sometimes the funding does fall through. I have seen this happen. And so when you're running a tech startup, your entire quest is survival. You are not going to dominate the market in year 1. You're basically just trying not to die. And if you are the leader, then you often have to kind of present this calm, confident game face to everybody else, because you, as the leader, you have to absorb the stress. Yes, you absorb the opportunities, but you pay for those opportunities with stress and hard work. And so as the leader, you're kind of like a swan, graceful and calm on the outside, but inside you're thinking, okay, I'm trying to make it to the next funding round, or I'm trying to make it to the next corporate contract, or I'm trying to get us to the next month of revenue. This is not like hustle culture Instagram posts. This is genuinely hard. Like, you have to do a lot of work, and it's mentally and emotionally draining. And some people like doing hard things just because they're hard. Some people like doing hard things because they want to prove to themselves that they can, or they want to prove to, I don't know, their favorite grandparent, whatever. If that's you, if you have done hard things before just because you knew that they were hard, then this might be the right path for you. But if you don't already have a track record of doing difficult things, this is not the right place to start. Starting a tech venture is not for beginners. The people who succeed have already overcome challenges. And they could be personal challenges, they could be professional challenges. Actually, it's both. So if you've had a dreadful childhood with mean parents, come on in. Usually, people who succeed in creating a tech venture, they've built something from nothing before. And that doesn't, sometimes that means a business, or it could mean a great career. It could also mean building themselves up after something terrible has happened. So they failed at something and then they got back up. And they've done the thing that has scared them. So if your life has been relatively smooth and you're looking for your first big challenge, then start somewhere else. Build a side business, run a marathon, do something else that's kind of on the ladder of difficulty. Work your way up, because tech startups will test every part of you. They'll test you intellectually, they'll test you emotionally, and they'll just test you physically, because there is a lot you need to get done. And so if you've never been tested before, you won't know if you can handle this level of testing until you're about $50,000 in. So if you're still listening, if I haven't yet put you off, I've got 3 more reasons. The second reason not to do this is that you have to make a lot of decisions. You have to do so quickly, and you have to do so with incomplete information. And so let me tell you about a founder, or actually an aspiring founder, that I spoke to recently. He was debating between 2 startup ideas, and both seemed reasonable, both had potential. But, aside from really kind of just researching the market, going to a few startup events and reading a few articles, he hadn't really been doing anything. So I couldn't say to him, okay, which one is better, because we just didn't have the information. And he'd been thinking about this for months. So my advice to him was, just pick one. Doesn't matter, just pick one of the 2, 50-50 chance. Give yourself 2 months to go all in on that idea. Test the market, build a test product, go to your target customers, get real feedback, and then at the end of 2 months, you're going to know what to do. At the end of this process, you'll have actual data on what to do next, and you'll have data from the market, and you'll also figure out, do I want to do this? Does this float my boat? And if it turns out that this option was not the right thing, then try the other idea. Either way, 2 months in, you'll be further ahead than if you just carry on deliberating and thinking, should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know. And you know what he did? He literally chose to carry on deliberating. And I bet you that in 2 months, he's going to be in exactly the same place as he is today. He's going to be talking about his ideas, going to startup events because, it's kind of cool and fun, reading articles and so on. And if this is you, you either need to start working or stop talking. Because in the startup world, we see people like this all the time, and you just don't get taken seriously. And this is a really, really good way to essentially ruin your professional information, to ruin your professional reputation. Okay, maybe not ruin, but basically not really be taken seriously. And I know that this sounds harsh, but that's the point. Because honestly, in a tech startup, you will never have complete information. You will never have certainty. And if you're waiting for 100% certainty, if you're waiting until you're 100% sure, you are going to wait forever. You have to be comfortable making decisions with 60% of the information or 40% of the information. And sometimes on gut feel. You have to be able to say, I think this is right. I'm going to commit. And if I'm wrong, I'll course correct. Now, the reason why this works is that you don't say, I'm going to commit for the rest of my life. You say, I'm going to commit for a certain amount of time. Like I told this founder, 2 months, commit 2 months to doing this. And he was working full time. So it's like it's a part-time commitment for 2 months. This is not a big ask. So I'm going to commit for a certain amount of time, or I'm going to commit a certain amount of money to test this out. And then if it's not working out or I don't want to do it, that's fine. I will know. So if you're the kind of person who needs to analyze everything from every angle before you act, you will drown in this world. There are other jobs for people with that kind of mindset. And actually, I'm thinking of somebody I know. He is a chief investment officer in a hedge fund, and they kind of have this collegiate decision making. They have like this investment committee process about how they invest in companies, and they take ages and they do loads and loads of research before they make a decision. Now, that's an interesting job. He's a clever guy and he makes lots of money. So that's the right kind of job for this kind of person. Tech entrepreneurship would be absolutely dreadful for him. Okay? So if making fast decisions with incomplete data is paralyzing to you, do not do this. Okay. Third reason not to start a tech venture is that your sensible friends and your family will tell you to get a proper job. And they'll mean well. And they'll say things like, oh, well, darling, this is a lovely idea, but what about your career? Or I just think you're too smart to be taking this kind of risk. So let me tell you. I started my first tech venture when I was at business school, and I lied to my mother for the first year of working on it. And imagine, I had worked in a private equity firm before, and then I went to the University of Chicago for my MBA. So my mother had bragging rights. She was like, my clever daughter, she's successful. And then after her MBA, she's going to work at this big company and all of these things. And I ruined it. So I knew what kind of reaction she would have if I told her that I'd smashed all of that up and decided to launch a tech venture with no experience and no money. And yet, this is what I did. So I literally said that I literally told my mother that I worked for one of our investors in their family office. So one of our investors is this very impressive woman who has a family office. And I said that that's where I was working, which has a link to the truth. Let's just say it's a link, very tenuous link to the truth. Anyway, so eventually I told her, and of course her reaction was, well, if you want to be in tech, my dear, why don't you try for a job at Google? And you know what? This question, why don't you get a job at Google? Why don't you get a job at Facebook? This question has been going on for years, and it still does. And I have literally signed 6-figure contracts with government for Tech for Non-Techies programs. But my mother would still rather that I get a normal job. This is actually fairly normal. I'm not the only person who's gone through this. The bottom line is, if you need constant external validation, if you need your parents to be proud, if you want your friends to think you're impressive, your colleagues to respect your choices, you will struggle with the early stages of tech entrepreneurship. Yes, now I get, invitations to speak at things. I've written for the Harvard Business Review, for the FT, and so on. And now I have the accolades and I have lots of external validation. But it took it didn't come straight away. It took hard work. So if you need constant external validation, then just be aware that this is not going to give that to you straight away. And if you can't handle that, then don't do it. Okay, here is my fourth and last big reason for you not to start a tech venture. And this is important. Basically, you will not earn well from this for a while. And if you're used to a fat corporate salary and you use your corporate salary on living really well, so you have fancy dinners and expensive trips and beautiful clothes, you will have to cut that. And this is a sacrifice, and it's not fun. I've made that sacrifice. I did not enjoy it. And so you have to be willing to make the sacrifice. And if you're not willing to make the sacrifice, this is not for you. And I've seen people leave six-figure jobs to build tech startups. And, they are excited about it. They've done all the research and, they're smart people. This is why they have this well-paying job. And they're good at managing the psychological shift because they're excited about the challenge and they believe in their idea. But the reality of life without that paycheck really sets in, and it's unpleasant. So, when they can't go on the ski trip that their friends are planning, or they're used to going to certain types of restaurants, and now they basically have to downgrade, then suddenly the whole thing feels kind of like punishment instead of pursuit. And if you are not willing to downgrade your lifestyle, even temporarily, you will really resent this journey. And when you resent it, you'll quit. And don't think that, I'm going to raise money and it's going to be fine. Because at the earlier stages, until even when you're raising Series A, you are not going to be getting paid a really big salary, because investors, essentially, they very rightly think that they want you to have some of the risk. So you'll have a salary that's definitely enough for you to live on, if you're raising Series A and so on. But it's not going to be the same as a big fat corporate salary that you could get in a consultancy, in advertising, or in a bank. Because the whole point is that you monetize either when you exit, or you monetize when you get those big contracts, and then you can have some of that profit sharing. So basically, if cutting back sounds unbearable to you, then don't do it. So basically, I've spent some time telling you why you should not build a tech venture. So if you're still listening, you might be thinking, well, who should? So here is the pattern that I have seen. And remember, about 700 people have now gone through my program. So I have seen this. And I've also been an advisor at the top accelerators and to investors and so on. So I've seen some patterns. The people who succeed in tech entrepreneurship are people who have done hard things before, and they want to do another hard thing. They're also people who can make decisions quickly and live with uncertainty. Doesn't mean they enjoy the uncertainty, but it means that they can handle it. And another characteristic is that people who succeed in tech startups do not need everybody to understand or approve of their choices. So it's this kind of like stepping away from the tribe. And also, it's people who are willing to sacrifice income and comfort for a period of time because they care more about the outcome, they care more about what they're building in the long term rather than short-term lifestyle choices. And if this is you, if all of what I said appeals to you, then try tech entrepreneurship. Like, I think it's interesting. I think it's one of the most interesting things with the biggest upside that you can have right now. But an interesting life with a huge financial upside also comes with the cost that I've told you about. So this is the trade-off that I want you to seriously consider. And even if one of the things that I described to make you think that, oh my God, this sounds awful, then don't do this, because it is awful. And there is no shame in thinking this is too much. I don't want this for my life. Building a tech startup is not the only way to have a meaningful career or to make a lot of money. But if you're still here and you're thinking, okay, this sounds hard, but I still want to do it, then you're in the right place. This show is specifically for non-technical founders who want to build tech ventures. So this is for the really ambitious people who really like doing very hard things. And now I've given you a real look at why it is not a good idea for you to go down this path. And if you are still going to go down this path, then I'm here to support you because we're the same kind of crazy. But honestly, seriously, think about what I've said, reflect on it, and then honestly decide whether this is what you really want. And on that note, I wish you a wonderful day, and I shall be back in your delightful smart ears next week. Ciao!